Hello, today I want to talk to you about scale technique, how to learn your scales and how to make them sound good. So in general, good scales, beyond having the correct notes in the correct order, will have a beautiful even tone and fingers throughout the whole range of your instrument, from right low down to right high up. It shouldn't matter which key you're playing in. The goal is, whether it's G major or E flat melodic minor, that they all sound equally good at the same speed. So there's some that you might need to practice more than others, obviously, to get them all the same quality. Scales should be musical rather than just a mechanical exercise. Try thinking of them as a really big tone exercise where you're trying to spread the most beautiful sound right from the bottom, right through up to the top and all the way back down again. Enjoy going over the top section of your scale, even if you're worried about fingering and tone on some of the top notes. So I'm going to play you a scale that I've got a lovely arch shape to. We also need to talk about hand position, which is really important because you want to make sure you're using correct hand position rather than reinforcing any bad habits that you might have picked up. Try and keep your fingers really light, the lightest touch that you can to close the keys, curved over rather than straight, and close to the keys, not sticking back up in the air. Very soft hand, very soft arm all the way up to the top. Silent practice is a really good way of checking your hand position. So for example here, I'm going to start on a D, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A, B flat, A, G sharp, G, F sharp, F, checking that my fingers are always curved as close to the keys as I can. Right, at some point your teacher will have given you all the information that you need for your exam, or just the scales that you're learning at that particular time, and then it's up to you to learn them and get them to stay in. So I'm going to go through a 4-step process that makes that a little bit easier. First of all, step 1, really important to learn the key signature of all of your scales. So sit down and just learn it like you would for anything, for any kind of test. Learn exactly what's in it. Second step. So say we were doing G major, for example. Say the note names through the scale up and down out loud. So G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, F sharp, E, D, C, B, A, G. This is really important because it's got to be your brain that's in control, not your fingers. So often people start playing their scales and they're not really thinking about what their fingers are doing. They're just trusting that their fingers will carry them up to the top and down again, rather than being the generating force coming from your brain, making sure that you're in control of your fingers. Then I'm going to repeat that process. Make sure it comes out really evenly. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. So this time I'm going to say the note names, but I'm going to practice my fingers at the same time. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, F sharp, E, D, C, B, A, G. Then, last step is to play it through. This time I'm checking for tone. Make sure you take the biggest breath that you can before you start off on your scale to try and get you all the way through to the top. We'll talk a bit more about breathing in a minute. Right, make sure that when you're playing your scales you keep to a beat. That's very important, rather than just playing one note successively after the other. The best idea would be to have a crotchet beat going and then play quavers. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, through up to the top of the scale. Doesn't matter what scale you're playing, then hopefully they'll all come out with the same tempo eventually. Right, now we're going to talk a bit more about the breathing. So you might find in the early stages, or even if you're a more advanced player and your scales are getting longer and they're going up higher, that breathing is difficult to try and get right through the whole scale up to the top. What I would recommend for this is start with a bit that you can manage and then build up by adding one note each time, for example, onto the top of the scale. So let's do F major. I'm going to start off just doing 4 notes, then I'm going to push myself further to do the next one, then the next one. Then the next one. process several days in a row, and then you'll find things do start to get easier. Again, I can't reinforce how important enough it is to take the biggest breath that you can before you start playing, rather than just the amount that you think that you're going to need, because you'll always end up needing more. Also, meter the air, so try using up less air on the first few notes where you're low down, saving enough for the top notes, which need more air to make a nice clear sound on those. Right, so you've started learning your scales. There might still be some corners that you're finding a little bit tricky. So I would say for this, split your scale up into sections. Rather than playing a whole 2-octave or even longer scale in one go, you'll make more improvements to your scale by playing sections that need working on, rather than just playing through the whole thing all the time. So say I was playing F sharp minor, I would just split it up to 1 octave. Maybe then going down. I might then play the top octave. And then back down again. It's easier to get a short section right and keep focused on that than it is to play the whole thing in one go. If there are still corners, this is a really good thing that I would recommend doing. You'll need a metronome for this. This is 120, these are crotchets. So what I'm going to do for this is break my scale up into 5-note chunks. I'd play each one several times, 4 or 5 times, until I was really happy that the tone was spread evenly throughout the whole 5 notes, that my fingers were moving equally, that it was the best sound that I could play on those, that I was using a full amount of air. Then you could even join sections together and try. More advanced players might find that they benefit from playing from the Tapenade and Gobert method, EJ1 and EJ2 for this. It can really help with your scales. And also EJ7 is excellent. For all those right hand fingers with the pinky and the 4th finger. Excellent for your scales. And actually I find excellent for my tone as well. Right, so also I've just played you an extended scale there, so you could hear going right up to the top, right down to the bottom, and then back up again. So once you've done your grade 8, you should be able to do all your scales as extended scales up to top C sharp, or top D. If you're looking for more of a challenge beyond that, then you could try changing the articulation patterns. This is a really good way of learning scales that you find tricky as well. Anything that adds an extra dimension of difficulty onto the scale, and then you come back and play the scale nice and simply, it suddenly feels a lot easier. So you could try changing the articulations. Change the rhythms. Any kind of pattern that you can come up with, you can devise your own, you can write them down, anything that you find will help with those. So then when you're trying to play lots and lots of scales in one go, it's a good idea to come up with some kind of rota for practicing them, so you don't just end up playing the same ones over and over again in the same order. You could try day 1, do all your major scales, day 2, major arpeggios, day 3, minor scales, harmonic minors, day 4, minor arpeggios, day 5, melodic minors, any kind of scheme that you come up with to make sure you've going over everything. You could even arrange it by doing everything from a C one day, so you would do C major arpeggio, C harmonic, C melodic minor, C minor arpeggio, C chromatic, dominant diminished seventh starting on C, maybe even a whole tone if you've got scales in thirds as well, so you're giving yourself a proper workout from one note. And then the next day, day 2, do all of those things again on a different note. Right, I hope that some of those points have been helpful for you. Thanks for listening. Bye bye.